It was the middle of spring when they baptized Malinali. She was dressed all in white. There was no collar on her dress, but a great deal of embroidery. She knew the value of embroidery, of spinning thread and the art of feathers, and had chosen for the occasion a ceremonial huipil full of meaning that she herself had made. The huipil spoke. They said much about the woman who had made them. They spoke of their time, their social condition, their marital state, their connection to the cosmos. Putting on a huipil was a whole initiation. In doing so, one repeated daily the voyage from the interior to the exterior. On putting one's head through the opening of the huipil, one moved from the world of dreams, which was revealed in the embroidery, into everyday life, which appears when the head comes out. This awakening to reality is a ritual morning act that reminds us day after day of the significance of birth. Huipils keep one's head centered, with the rest of the body covered in front, in the back, and on both sides. The cross that is formed by the embroidered parts of the huipil means that one is planted in the center of the universe, lit by the sun and covered by the four winds, the four directions, the four elements. That's how Malinali felt in her beautiful white huipil as she was ready to be baptized. For her, the ritual of baptism was very important, and she was deeply moved to know that it was the same for the Spaniards. Her ancestors performed it according to their own costumes. Her grandmother performed it for her after she was born, and it was assumed that at the age of 13 it needed to be done for her again, but no one did it. Malinali very much regretted it. The number 13 was very significant. 13 were the moons in a solar year. 13 menstruations. 13, the houses of the sacred calendar of the Mayans and the Mexicas. Each of its houses was made up of 20 days and the sum of 13 houses. Each with 20 days came to a total of 260 days. When one was born, both the solar calendar of 365 days and the sacred one of 260 days began and did not join again until the 52nd year, a complete cycle that would begin again. If you add 5 and 2, the numbers in 52, you get 7. Which is also a magic number because 7 are the days that make each of the 4 lunar phases. Malinali knew that the first 7 days, when the moon was between the earth and the sun, the moon is dark, for the new moon is on the verge of rising, and this was a time to be silent so that all things that had yet to be born would do so freely, without any interference. It was the best time to feel what should be the main objective of the actions one would undertake during the coming lunar cycle. It was the birth of purpose. The next 7 days, when the moon rose at noon and fell at midnight, showing only half her face, was the time to put one's purposes into action. The next 7 days, when the moon was on the opposite side of the earth from the sun and shone in fullness over the earth, was the time to celebrate and share our achievements. And the last 7 days, when the moon showed the other half of her face, was a time to reflect on everything gained over those 28 days. All these aspects of time accompanied each human being from the moment of birth. Malinali had been born in the 12th house. The date of birth marked one's fate, and because of this, Malinali bore the name of the house in which she was born. The meaning of the number 12 is resurrection. The glyph that corresponds to the number 12 is a skull in profile, for it represents all that dies and is transformed. Growing out of the skull instead of hair is malinali, a fiber also known as sacred grass. The glyph for 12 alludes to death, which embraces her dead son and offers him rest. It represents either unity or a mother who snatches from death the bundle of a corpse wrapped in its shroud and bound with malinali, the sacred grass. She takes him to return him to the unity of the One and give birth to him, renewed. Malinali was also the symbol of the town, as well as of the bewitching city of Malinalco, founded by the terrestrial lunar goddess Malinalchoachit, or flower of Malinali. Curiously, it was the fiber malinali that was used to make the poncho which Juan Diego was wearing in the year 1531, when the Virgin of Guadalupe appeared to him, supported by the moon on the 12th day of the 12th month, and 12 years after Hernán Cortés had arrived in Mexico. Malinali was so proud of all these concepts contained in the meaning of her name that she tried to give form to them in the huipil that she had begun to embroider several moons earlier. It was during the time of silence that she had felt the need to make it, and until now she had believed that it was the proper thing to do. The huipil was the one that she chose to wear in the longed-for ceremony of baptism. Made with cotton thread that she herself had spun and woven in a loom, it had been appliqué with seashells and precious feathers. The symbol for the moving wind was embroidered on the chest, surrounded by plumed serpents. It was in itself an encrypted message to be seen and appraised by the emissaries of Lord Quetzalcoatl. She was dressed like a faithful devotee, but no one seemed to notice. The only one who seemed to be dazzled by her attire was a horse that drank from a nearby river and that never took its eyes off her throughout the whole baptismal ceremony. Malinali did not fail to notice, and from then on, a loving relationship developed between them. After the ceremony ended, Malinali approached Friar Aguilar to ask him about the meaning of Marina, the name they had just given her. The friar responded that Marina was she who came from the sea. "Is that all?" Malinali asked. The friar responded with a simple yes. The disappointment must have been evident in her eyes. She was hoping that the name granted to her by the emissaries of Quetzalcoatl would have a deeper meaning, since, as she assumed, it wasn't being granted to her by simple mortals who were completely ignorant of the profound meaning of the universe, but by initiates. Her name had to mean something important. She persisted with the friar, but the only additional answer that she could get from him was that they had chosen the name because Malinali and Marina shared a certain phonetic similarity. No, she refused to believe it. But because it was such a momentous day in Malinali's life, she did not let herself sink into disappointment, but instead decided on her own to take control of her new name. If her native name meant braided grass, and if the grass and all plants in general needed water, and her new name was related to the sea, it meant that she was assured of eternal life, for water was eternal, and it would forever nourish who she was, the braided grass. Yes, that was exactly the meaning of her new name.